How would I describe the hunter-gatherer philosophy in one sentence? Hmm. So I'd say it's like an exploration, or in a sense like a study of ideas that revolves around how the early humans lived and also how they coexisted with nature. Yeah, and I guess how they developed physically and conceptually over the years into what we are today. Was that good? Yeah, yeah, I'll elaborate on it if you want. Sure, but like, what should I focus on? Tradition? Why? What do you mean? Oh, so like how the tradition and culture actually got formed. Yeah, that sounds good. Alright, but before I say anything, I think it would be worth noting that anything I say or any concepts I describe will probably be really, really generalized. Because what I say doesn't apply to every single hunter-gatherer, of course. But I can't be sure that customs and practices of one group would necessarily be transferable to the others, though I still have to use them, to make an establishment. Is that fine? Alright, cool. So, to start off, there's this really good book called Sapiens by this evolutionary biologist. He's called Yuval Noah Harari, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and so in his book, he estimated that around 30 to 70,000 years ago, there was said to be this cognitive revolution. And by this he meant like this time period whereby early humans or sapiens began to form conceptual perspectives on the world around them. And so during this cognitive revolution, it said that the humans began to make these sort of common or mutual systems between themselves. And they did this mainly out of curiosity, but I also think they did it to increase their work efficiency, of course, whilst also maintaining their belief in free will. And so what strikes me about this is that the humans already had existed for hundreds of thousands of years before their intellectual advancement. Like, it actually puts into perspective the sheer amount of time it took for the humans with, I don't know, like 7 or 9 species, or however many it was, to deviate away from more primitive or early manners of life, and then they gravitated towards the unknown, what didn't really exist, but what they thought was there. And in fact, the pursuit of these unworldly concepts, it ultimately sort of predestined the humans for their success. It was like the point of time where tribes, they could form this non-existent idea, but what it required was a belief amongst the other tribes to be, considered to be real. So like an example I could give is in the modern day sense would be money, the concept of money. It was a man-made concept early on as a form of exchange. Like, you give me a piece of bread, I'll give you a coin, and then they were given value, etc. And like another example would be like politics, so voting for a leader, and culture. Though I would say a more prevalent belief, like theorized amongst the hunter-gatherers, I'd argue is the start of religion. a basic religion, a belief that they had a creator who made them. And I say this because the recognition that there could be a creator would have obviously helped them explain why they were on Earth in the first place. Because they don't know why they were here. They were just born into a tribe and had to learn to live and survive on their own and with their communities. They didn't know who or what sent them and didn't have any science to explain anything. And it would also form theories of like an afterlife, a place after death, because of course, after you see a fellow tribe member killed during a hunt or like plenty of old age, the hunter-gatherers, they would wonder, like they would be curious whether there was a life after death. And ultimately, it enabled us to think more abstractly, enabled us to develop that sense of morality, the first moral sort of thinking. Like both the modern and early humans, we can't actually truly determine the existence of a creator. However, it's the fundamental like amalgamation / connection of imaginations that allowed us to develop mentally and cognitively. You could also say that tradition stemmed from this cognitive advancement, that the conscious mind would commit vital tasks, such as hunting or making something important, into a habit. And then it would form different skill sets amongst tribes. Tribes would be, their craft would be based on certain things that could help each other. And then that would be passed on as a desirable trait through families and or other tribes. Some would of course be discarded for being irrelevant, and some would stay for being useful. And ultimately, these traditions were passed down generations. And that is what I define as a culture. Yeah, how was that? Yeah, true. Nah, I mean, I did miss out a lot. It was decent, it wasn't that good, but yeah, that's it. That's my answer.